One of the nurses came up to the doctor and said, "Hey, don't you have to get permission from the director for you to move him to ICU?" She goes, "Not in this case. He's tombstone."
Hey, got something really cool I wanted to run by and let you know what's going on. So I'm starting a group that will start taking a deep dive into each one of these episodes. So we'll collectively come together and talk about the shows, talk about the guests. I'll be bringing back some of the guests to do some Q&A sessions and really take a further dive into their story, their journey, the episode, talk about, maybe some of the things you wish I would have asked on the episodes, do some Q&A sessions and the like. As a friend put it to me, it's really like a book club, but for the podcast. So a couple times a week, we'll go in, we'll break down the favorite shows of the week, and have cool discussions around everything that we've heard, we've learned, and want to know about their journey. Some of these guests will come in and they'll teach part of, what makes them awesome at what they do. And then, as always, I'll be providing regular value and content in this group. It's really cool because this only is going to cost $5 a month to join this group. And you'll be able to come in, interact with everybody else in there. So I'll put a link right in the show notes for this that you can jump in, come have a conversation with us, and we will really deep dive into each one of these episodes and help us all rise up together. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's going to be a great show today. Having the show wasn't something I started out to do. But the day I found out somebody wanted to really sponsor the show was a really, really cool experience. So, guys, I want you to take some time to go check out Point Blank Safety Services and their new nonprofit, Blue Family Fund. These guys are doing some really, really cool things. And Stacy McGovern, who's the CEO over there, has been a dear friend, and she was a guest on the show. But these guys are literally taking, the off-duty officers and putting them out in security guard role. And here's what's cool about it is, as they're protecting our lives, they don't make a whole lot of money in that regard. No first responders are paid for the value they provide for our safety and our health and taking care of us. So these guys, Stacy and her team over at Point Blank Safety Services have really found a cool way to give back to these officers by helping them provide an additional income so they can continue to support and protect us. So do me a favor, guys. Seriously, go check out pointblanksafety.com and then go look at their nonprofit, which is Blue Family Fund. Now, this nonprofit was created because of the success of Point Blank Safety Services. They wanted to give back to the families of fallen officers and be able to give scholarships away to the families of current, police officers. So do me a favor. It would mean the world to me if you would go out and help support this show by supporting Point Blank Safety Services and their nonprofit Blue Family Fund. Just tell them Donnie has sent you. You heard it on Donnie's Success Champions, and Stacy will take a tremendous and amazing care of you. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, this is going to be a really cool podcast. I've got John coming on here to share his story, and it's a good one, man. So he's going to talk about how life punched him in the face, and so he was able to figure out what his passions were, and the things he's creating now are just wicked cool. Enjoy this one. All right, guys, going to be another fun episode. I'm bringing you John Stewart Hill. He's got a really cool story with the things he's doing with his company. So, John, welcome to the story, my friend. Please share your story with us.
Donnie, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your show. It's kind of humbling to me sometimes that I have a story to tell. But I think that in life, we all kind of go through these hard times. And to me, I just feel like there's a purpose behind all of that. At the age of 42, I was at a place in my life where I looked back on it and I didn't see much success. I'd had 3 divorces. I was living with a friend. I just had a new girlfriend that I had moved in with. and was just at a place where I'd lost everything many times over. Everything I owned could fit inside my car. Literally was just felt like a complete failure. And there was a time, probably it was about 2 weeks before my 43rd birthday, that I was praying that God would just take me from the planet, because, I'd like I said, I could look back and I just had done nothing of value and didn't see a future that had any kind of value to it. So I've been praying for months that God would just take me off the planet. And I don't know if you remember, you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so you probably remember in 2011 when that Super Bowl happened and there was a huge freeze that came that year.
Yep.
Well, I was outside smoking a cigarette that day, and I started feeling kind of like this heaviness in my chest, and I started feeling a little bit dizzy, and I started thinking, man, there's something, I got to stop smoking or something, but it had just thawed out enough that my family was going to come and visit me, and we were going to try to play some games. Well, I ended up, and I just needed to lay down because I wasn't feeling very well. And then I started coughing, and the next thing you know, it kind of escalated to where I was coughing up fluid and then blood. I mean, and so I'm thinking, man, I must have bronchitis or something, and I need to get to the hospital. My girlfriend at the time had said, John, you're going to the hospital. And so I didn't argue with her. I said, okay, let's go. We made our way into the hospital in Mansfield, Texas. Like I said, there just ice all over the roads and barely thawed out enough. And I knew that it was going to refreeze that night. But went to the hospital, and they did a diagnosis that it was pneumonia because both my lungs were filled with fluid. Well, later on that night, it turns out that it wasn't pneumonia at all. It was a heart attack. And,
oh, wow.
And this whole time I'd had a heart attack. And I didn't find this out till about 2:00 in the morning. And I was laying there in that hospital bed trying to decide, what's going on, and finally the doctor came in and said, hey, listen, this just doesn't look like pneumonia. We're going to do some more tests. And I said, okay. And then that's whenever they figured out, well, this is your heart. And so I was laying there in the bed thinking, wow, I didn't realize I had a heart attack, and I didn't even know it. At that time, they finally had put some oxygen on me, and I was feeling a little bit better. But I overheard them out in the hall talking, and one of the nurses came up to the doctor and said, hey, don't you have to get permission from the director for you to move him to ICU? And so I'm laying there, and she goes, not in this case. He's tombstone.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, yeah, there's a word you don't hear every day, and I figured they weren't going to order me a pizza.
Right.
I wouldn't turn it into an old West cowboy, so the only thing that I could think of was that here it is.
This is not the time you want to say I'll be your Huckleberry.
Right, exactly. I'm at the end of my life here.
Right.
And so they put me on the gurney. They had me call my family to come back up there, I was like, I don't guess it dawned on me just how perilous this was. I was at the end of my life. And so they were wheeling me down to ICU. And I remember, on the way there thinking, if this is dying, it's really not that bad. I wasn't feeling, I felt like I knew where I was going to go. I've been praying that God would take me off the planet. So here's my chance, here's my chance. And so I'm getting wheeled there, and I felt like God spoke to me. It was not like a booming voice, and I'm not some weirdo. It was just like this quiet question that came into my mind. John, do you want to stay or do you want to go? And I realized right then that I had the choice. It was right then that I realized that God was now putting the choice to live or die in my hands. And I realized, and I sat there and I started thinking, I was like, man, it would be so easy to just leave this planet. I've been begging for it, It would probably be just a split second, and I would be asleep, out, not have another worry in the world. And so inside, I really wanted to go, but there was something else that was inside me that wouldn't let me. It was just like this draw to purpose, like there is a purpose behind everything I've gone through. And if I would just believe that I could be used for good, that I would have a different kind of life. And so there was no, looking back on my history, there was nothing to say that I would ever amount to anything. I hadn't up to that point. So what would make me think I was going to do anything good now? Well, like I said, I wanted to go, but purpose wanted me to stay. and it just kept pulling at me. And I was like, not responding back to God real fast with this, because I'm like, okay, there's a chance that I might actually want to be here. So I thought about it, and remember, it's freezing outside, so it was going to take the cardiologist and his team over an hour to get to the hospital to even look at me. I'd already had a massive heart attack. The heart enzymes were off the chart. She said it was massive. Whatever happened, it was a massive heart attack. And I don't think that anybody had much hope for me living. But as I laid there waiting for the doctor, I just kind of thought over my life, and I said, okay, God, I'd like to stay if that's okay with you. But I actually set it up where I put some conditions in there. And I was like, I do not want to live the life that I've been living. I don't want to be that same person anymore. And so here's the conditions. If I live, one, I want to be remembered for doing something good. And, it's like at that point, my family, my friends, I had a few of them, and they all might be able to go, oh, I remember John. He was a nice guy. But they would have never been able to say anything like positive about what I did on the earth. And so I was like, I want to be remembered for doing something good. Now, the second thing was I want to live every day, not just be alive. Because, we get so wrapped up in what we don't have or lack. Man, I'm striving for this. I'll never reach that. Oh, I failed at that. And we're so focused on the stuff from the past or what we don't think we're going to have in the future that we don't really enjoy the present. And so that's what I wanted is I wanted to live every day. I didn't want to just be alive, which meant that I became grateful for just being alive and having what I had. And then the third thing was I wanted to touch as many people as I possibly could while I remained on the planet. I didn't know how long it was going to be, but if I was going to be here, I wanted to touch other people's lives. And all I can say was like that hospital room, I just felt like this energy that just kind of enveloped me. And if I could see into the spirit realm, I would say that God was dancing around that table going, that's my boy. That's a good decision, John. You're making a good decision. I'm going to be there for you, And so, I walked out of the hospital a few days later. They were able to put in 3 stents and get blood flowing back through. I mean, that was emotional all by itself because I'm awake through this whole thing. They wouldn't put me out because I was in such bad shape. Whenever the doctor finally got there and put in the stents, there were people that were kind of behind the glass, just like you'd see in a TV show. They're all watching, waiting to see what's going to happen. And there's probably half a dozen people back there behind this glass that was just expecting me to, to pass away at any moment. And so when they saw the blood flowing back through, then they started clapping and hooting and hollering. It was like, wow, I'm going to live, and I knew it. I knew whenever God said, so be it, that I was going to live. And so anyway, my heart is really super damaged. It's 40% of it's scarred from it. I have a pacemaker. Lots of other things have happened from that heart attack. But when I left the hospital, it's not like there was like there was nothing that changed. I still had the same crummy job. I still hadn't done anything in the world. So, I wasn't in any difference. The only thing that was different when I left the hospital is I left with purpose. I didn't go in with purpose. I left with purpose. And when I saw that there was going to, especially when I laid out specifically what I wanted with the rest of my life, I knew that the only reason I was here was to do good in the world. And so every day since then, if I'm not working toward that goal of doing something good in the world, then I don't want to be here. My choice would be to go. That's the easy way out. The hard thing is to stay here and try to do something with your life. And there's probably people listening right now that just have gotten to a point in their life where they're like, I'm a loser. I'm never going to get it right. It's just, every time I try, I fail. But listen, if you're trying, you're not failing. If you're moving forward, you're not failing. You're just learning, and God's writing your story. Without this story, I wouldn't be who I am today, and I wouldn't be able to minister to the people that I've ministered to, because there's a lot of people that are hurting. There's a lot of people that got burnt by religion. I'm one of those guys, and I can talk about those things. But there's a loving God, and I believe fully that He is fully active in my life. He has showed me where to go. And listen, I own a company now called the Good Contractors List. It's out in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I know that this is everywhere. But in Dallas-Fort Worth, I'm on the radio in several places, The Ticket, KRLD, KSCS, some major stations here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I built this company with no education, no money. When God gave me the idea for the Good Contractors List, I had nothing. I was still that same guy. But I knew when it happened, whenever I got this idea to protect homeowners from shady contractors, that, wait, this is part of my purpose. And I left my job with nothing in the bank. I had one more paycheck coming to me, and I was like, if this is it, then I just got to go for it. And I did. I was in a little 1980s rent house, just as happy as I could be, because I knew that I had a purpose, and that's where I started it, right there in my Pontiac G5 that I moved the last little bit of my stuff out with.
Dude, this is an awesome story. All right. Now I'm going to jump in. You run a roll.
Okay, please jump in.
Yeah, no way in hell that I was going to interrupt that, because what a ride. And this is the whole reason I do this show, is I love hearing people's story. That's 100% honest God truth is, I love that redemption story. Here's a couple of things that I want to make sure people really caught with your story. One, you'd lived a pretty crappy life for 42 years, right? Yeah. 3 divorces, smoking at the time. I'm going to make an assumption you were probably drinking at the same time, and just living a life with no direction. I mean, freaking lost out there of where the hell to go. Yeah. And unfortunately, life walked up, punched you square in the damn face, and said, all right, we're going to either make you, in my terms, shit or get off the pot. So they hit you with this wickedly massive heart attack. Now, this what freaks me out a little bit. The surgery, you're awake the whole damn time. So you're getting to hear when things go good, you're getting to hear when things go bad, and you got an audience, sitting like a Grey's Anatomy show up in the glass watching that. God, what was that experience like? I mean, laying there on a table, wide open, and I'm sure you're basically numb from the neck down type thing.
Well, okay, so it wasn't open heart surgery that he was doing at that time. Yeah, he was going up to, they do, I can't remember what it's called, but basically they just run a line up through your groin area up into your heart and pump a dye through to see what's going on in your heart. Okay. And when they did that, he was able to talk to me, and he goes, you see that thing right there that looks like a stump? And I said, yeah. He goes, that's a whole series of arteries that are going to the back of your heart that is getting zero blood. One of those arteries is 100% blocked. And if you can see this little bit of movement on this side right over here, that shows that the other artery was 99% blocked. I literally had no blood going to half of my heart for who knows how long. It killed my heart. I mean, literally, like 40% of it is dead meat right now. And so, yeah, I mean, I've got tons of stories. I've actually, 6 years later, I got to tell you this. This is kind of a really cool thing, and I'm just going to be quick about it. You're good. But in April of 2017, I was trying to decide whether or not to get a heart transplant because I qualified for years. I have congestive heart failure from this. Because of that congestive heart failure, the lethargy and weight gain and fluid retention and all that stuff really drags you down. So in April of 2017, I was trying to tie my shoe that morning, and I had to stop 3 or 4 times just tying my shoes. I weighed, at that time, I had lost about 20 pounds because I'd been trying to do different diets, but it just made me feel worse. And so I was at 222 pounds in that April. I went to church on that April 23rd, and I was praying. I was like, God, I just need some wisdom on what I need to do here. Do you want me to get a heart transplant, or do I need to do something else? And without going into the full story, it was made very clear to me that I needed to kind of go to a plant-based diet for a while, which really made me angry.
You can say piss you off. It's okay.
I mean, do I just eat potatoes now, or what?
Right.
I was like, I was not happy about it, but I thought, well, if that's what I'm supposed to do, I'll do it. And through a series of things, it became very clear that's exactly what I want you to do. And so I committed to it. Within a few weeks, I started feeling a little bit of energy, and my doctors had told me I would never do anything more than walk on a treadmill or I was in danger of killing myself. Literally, with congestive heart failure, because that 60% that's still there, if it gets too much activity, it'll enlarge, and then fluid starts spilling out, and that's what causes the fluid in the lungs, and then you'll drown. So CHF is a condition that you don't normally see anybody doing anything other than wait it out till death, you know. And so that's where I was. I mean, I was building a company, and I did all this stuff with all these obstacles now, health-wise. But here I was now trying to decide whether I want a transplant. And this is April 23rd. I'm not kidding you. Within 3 weeks, I was feeling better, and I said, okay, I'm going to give that treadmill a shot. And so I joined a gym, went to the gym, and started working out on the treadmill. To speed the story up, 5 months later, I'm standing on the stage of a bodybuilding competition with abs. I'm not making this stuff up. I mean, if you go to johnstewarthill.com, you can actually see that video of me this April when I won my second competition that I went to.
So a couple of things I really want people to really take away from this is there's a lot of people that say, well, I'm too old to do X, or I'm too old to start something.
Right.
Crap, dude, you didn't even get started till you were 42 years old.
Yeah, and now I'm 50.
And now, 6 years later, so you're 48. Now you decide to become a bodybuilder.
Yeah, at 49, and then So I actually, to top it off, in April, I decided, that was my 1 year from April 2017 to April 2018. I was in my second competition in April, and so I went to that one. But I thought, okay, I'm just gonna, I want to get some professional photos made to mark my 1 year, So I actually went and got some photos made, and I ended up sending it in, and I got accepted as a fitness model. Here I am, 50 years old, as a, with a, winning a bodybuilding competition.
Right.
It's just like, God.
Yeah, let's go back to 42-year-old self.
Yeah.
At 42, down on your luck, living a hard life, would you ever think 8 years later you're going to be standing on a stage as a fitness freaking model, running a successful company that's being advertised all over the place and becoming the person you became? Could you have seen that person prior to the heart attack?
I would have laughed. I would have laughed at anyone who said, "Oh, this is what you're going to be doing in 8 years." Yeah, okay, right. People won't even.
Let me puff on this cigarette a second and tell you how much I'm going to be a bodybuilder on stage, right?
Right, exactly. One, those guys are kind of weird standing up there flexing their muscles with the.
No, they're 100% weird. Let's throw that out there. So you fully fall into that camp now, just so you know.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, what was funny was it's part of getting out of where you are is seeing where you want to go, and so what changed there is whenever I went in there and I started in the gym, there was a guy that was working out about the same time I was, and he was a bodybuilder. I had no intention of being a bodybuilder. That wasn't even in my mind. I was just thinking, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I could do more than walk on a treadmill? Maybe I'll lift a few light weights. And so every day I made one decision to get a little bit better. That was all. I wasn't planning on being a bodybuilder. I was just going to do a little bit more every day and try to push myself just a little bit further until my body said, no, you can't go that far. And so I did that every single day. And so fortunately, the guy that was working out that I'd asked questions to finally said, hey, listen, if you'll come in 30 minutes earlier and be here at 5 a.m., I'll work out with you every day. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So I jumped in there, and then I got the bug. I mean, when I saw what he was doing, I was like, you think there's any chance that a guy with a pacemaker would get up there without a shirt on, 50-year-old? He's like, I don't know why you couldn't.
I didn't even think about that because a pacemaker, that's no small thing sitting underneath your skin.
Oh, it's obvious.
Yeah. I mean, my father-in-law had one before he passed away, and, when he took his shirt off, I mean, it's like having a Walkman almost underneath your
Yeah, I was like, that is not a pack of cigarettes. That's a pacemaker, yeah. Right. No, it stuck out like a sore thumb, but I actually ended up getting a tattoo over my pacemaker that makes it look really cool, because what I was seeing is that whenever I'd go to the beach or whatever when we'd go on vacation, people would look over at me and then they would look down like they didn't engage with me because it was kind of unsightly. It looked great. It was sticking out there. So now I've got this tattoo, and people look at the tattoo and they're like, oh, wow, this is a cool tattoo.
Wait, you found a guy or gal to tattoo over the top of your pacemaker?
Yeah, I sure did.
Now that's balls in crazy, dude.
Yeah, well, I mean, I read up on it, and I saw other people who had tried to make it look like a zipper or whatever where the scar is. But the only thing I could see was there, that there was this. It said, don't get the ink near the scar. There's just one scar that they open up and stuff right. To think down into, right? So I did the tattoo over the skin under the scar, so the scar actually becomes part of the tattoo.
That's
right?
Cool.
It looks like my chest is being ripped open, and you see this old pacemaker with screws in it and stuff. It's a really cool thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, with the tattoo, you can't really. I can stand right in front of you without a shirt on, and you just see a tattoo, and then pretty soon you're going, "What is that? Is there something under you?" And then I can start talking about the pacemaker and tell my story and stuff.
I love it. Here's the interesting thing is you said, when you came out of the hospital, you found, you didn't go in the hospital with passion. You came out of the hospital with passion.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, as they're going about their journey, they're trying to find that passion. They're trying to find that thing they can get behind, that vision, that something to go beyond. And unfortunately for a lot of people, they've got to get punched in the face by life before they find it. And, if they would just try enough things, they're going to stumble into it. And I think a lot of people just don't go out and take enough risks in life to go chase some of their fears down and see if they can find out what they do. When you found your passion, did you feel yourself shift internally when you realize now I have a trajectory, now I have a place to go? Was it a mental shift that happened at that point, or did you gradually grow into that passion?
Well, I feel like there was, all along the way, I learned things. Have you ever heard of the law of attraction?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, that, and that's kind of a secular thing, I guess. It's more,
it's a worldly thing, right? Yep.
As far as that, but biblically, I figured out that what was going on there is envisioning your future, and so I did, like I said, when I left that hospital, I didn't have a trajectory. All I knew was good. I'm going to do something good. I don't know what that is. Don't know what it looks like. I don't know how to aim for it. I just know that I'm going to do something good. Well, the second thing I asked for was that I wanted to live every day, not just be alive, right? So there's this theory of the law of attraction that what we put our emotions and thoughts into is what we get back, right? So if you can stay on the same track as where I'm going, it's like, in the law of attraction, you might say, I want to get that beautiful house, and you focus on that house, and you imagine that house, and you imagine the rooms in it, and you try to walk through, and you smell the smell of the leather furniture that you just bought. And, that's kind of the theme of law of attraction, is that you try to put yourself in those places. But what is missed there is that house is not going to make you happy. That doesn't have anything to do with joy. That is a thing, So a lot of people focus on all the things that they want for their future whenever they think about the law of attraction. Well, where I wanted to be right then was I wanted to be grateful for what I had. Right. So as that second thing was I want to live every day, not just be alive. That meant that I had to stop complaining about what I didn't have. Stop looking at all the things that I'd done and say it's going to keep me from being able to move forward. And one day at a time, I was just thankful. It wasn't that I was afraid of dying, and I was just, oh, wow, I've got to change my life, and I've got to do all this stuff. I knew that I was here for a purpose, and that's the only reason I was still here. So every day I was just thankful that I had a purpose, whatever that was. I had a purpose. And so I became very thankful. And I realized laying in that little 1970s, 80s, I can't remember what year it was built, little rent house that I was in. I was laying in my bed one day, and I was looking around the room, and I said, if I'm not happy in this space, I'm not going to be happy in a bigger space with more things around me. And it just started growing in me that, you know what, I'm just so happy that I'm here. I'm happy that I have a purpose. And thank you for this car that I'm driving. You know, thank you for it. And I started being grateful for things. And guess what happens when you're grateful? You attract more things to be grateful about. When you're sitting there thinking about your lack, you're attracting more lack into your life. So the change that happened was whenever I got out and I was living every day and I was being thankful for what I had, things just started flowing into my life. It just started lining up.
Absolutely. And I love this. And I hear this is the feedback I get from some of the listeners of my show, is they're like, Johnny, you get these guys come on here and they tell you to practice gratitude and be grateful. Some even tell you to keep a gratitude journal and just doing that. But Donnie, I live in shit. I live in squalor. You know, everywhere I look is I have nothing. What am I supposed to be grateful for at that point? I know what my response is every time. What would you say to them?
It's all part of your story, man. If you didn't live in squalor, how could you ever touch a life of somebody who lives in squalor? You know, you're being prepared for something great. And I, you know, it's like these obstacles that come in my life. If you talk to somebody who is being used for good, who has found their purpose in life, and ask them, where would you go back and change? Would you go back there while you were in squalor and move into a mansion and have millions of dollars coming to you? And that guy would say, no way would I ever change that. No way would I ever change. You know, do I want to have 3 divorces as part of my story? No, but it's there. You know, and I had to live through each one of those circumstances, and I went through squalor. You know, I was homeless and literally had to live with friends because I had lost my job, lost my everything, and this was multiple times. It was just like, you know, repeat. I was going in this vicious circle my whole life. Even when I would try to stay positive, it would end up in squalor.
Right.
But at the point where I said, I'm happy in squalor. You know what? There's people, you can always find people who are in worse shape than you are. I promise you. In America, if you're under the sound of my voice in America, you are in the top, 1% of the world probably.
Yeah. These are first world problems, right?
Right.
You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
so I'm living in squalor, but there's a hailstorm going on outside, and I'm not getting pelted with hail.
Right.
You know?
Or it's 100 degrees outside, and you got air conditioning, you know, going on, right? Here's the interesting thing about this, is the other portion of what you said is you found a purpose, and you felt like that there was a higher calling for you. Yeah. And I really believe that everybody's got that. Everybody has a higher purpose in front of them, whatever your belief is, right? Is you're here to accomplish something.
Yes.
And I think once people start turning towards that to go and actually try and accomplish something, life gets really, really fun, you know, as you move forward. How did you discover what your purpose was? Your purpose was.
Well, you know, I still feel like I'm living out my purpose. You know, every day it could change. You know, I'm not a contractor. You know, so how in the world would I end up working with contractors every day? What would happen? It was that there is a purpose. You know, people want to identify that, but that's something that you really can't even identify because you don't know what you're going to do with your life right up to the very end. I still feel like I have a greater purpose than the things that I've accomplished, and that's only because I'm living purpose every day. And the more purpose I feel every day, the more purpose gets drawn into my life. My territory is expanding right now, and that's what I feel like is happening. Is that it starts with that gratitude, Donnie. I mean, right there where you change and just say, I'm thankful for what I have today. And you know what? If I stay here, there's a purpose behind me staying here. You know, if I'm late to work because there was a wreck on the road and I'm 10 minutes, there's a purpose behind me being delayed. You know, because everything works together. to bring about the best. And I believe it's always working like that. But we always, and I don't know where everybody else is, but my thing is I know what my reward is. My reward could have happened that day whenever I could have chose death. I could have chose death, and I feel like my reward is what I have eternally. This life is very, very short. It's just a very small span of time, and if we focus so much on what we're getting here and we think this is our reward, we're kind of screwed.
Well, and, what I tell everybody is you get one shot on this rock, right? You get one round, one time, so you might as well go freaking big and loud and go live the biggest life that you can live. It doesn't mean you have to be wealthy. It doesn't mean you have to have riches. It doesn't mean you have to save the world. It doesn't mean you have to do anything, but live what's big for you, right? And, for some people, that big may be on the couch with the greatest book they've ever read, so whatever it is, go big for you and live large. Because if you don't find what I believe fulfillment in your life, you're never going to have a happy and joyful life.
Yeah.
You're just going to walk through in this mundane cloud of never figuring out what the hell I want to be when I grow up. And that's why you see so many people, once they hit that retirement age, they last for about a month and then they pass away because their entire purpose in life was whatever that career was. Right. They never find fulfillment.
What if life was full of purpose and you had no idea what it was? Why do you have to know?
I agree.
I like to think of, whenever I compare myself to someone, the only one that I can truly compare myself to, this is so weird.
It's Arnold Schwarzenegger? Oh, I was going to say just because of the bodybuilding, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I was going to say Forrest Gump. This man, so he goes through life. He's simple, but he's making impacts in the world. He doesn't even realize the impact that he's making. All he does is follow his heart. If you just watch what that whole show is about, is following your heart and letting your mind get out of the way, because he accomplished so much and he never even really give it a shot. It was just he just did what he could everywhere he went, and when he wanted to run, he started running. He just gave that all. He didn't know why he was doing it. He was just doing it. And then all of a sudden there's a movement behind him. It's like, that's what I want to be like. I want to be so ready to move to the next thing that I don't want to be tied down to anything, and I do have a business and I have to run it, but I'm not married to this. And if this thing crumbles tomorrow and I end up broke and somewhere, I know that is where I'm supposed to be going, because I've dedicated my life to purpose. And if it's time for me to leave, take me, but if I end up I was today, we did a Meals on Wheels. We're givers, so we like to go back out. And so we did. I saw this one little place that's back in the woods, and this little trailer house that was just crumbling apart, And we go out and we bring meals to him. Well, out next to this little trailer is a much smaller trailer, like a 1-bedroom mobile home with a living room. And so I went in up there and knocked on the door, and he came to it, and I was so excited for this man. I was like, you got you a new place. And he's like, yeah, man, come on in, and he let me come in, and you could tell this guy had a really rough life. And he, with tears in his eyes, he said, my daughter was the one who was the mastermind behind this place. And I just was looking around. I said, you know what more do you need? And he was like, yeah, man, what more do you need? And he had joy in his heart. And who, at the end of your life, if you leave this planet with joy, peace, you feel like you've had a connection with somebody, man, you've been successful.
Hell yeah.
You don't have to go out there and win the world. If that's where you end up, and you can be where you are, accept that that's where you are, be thankful for where you are, you've won, man.
Hell yeah. And what I love about that is all of that, and add one more, is everywhere you are is where you're supposed to be, because you're fixing to learn something. Right. Yeah. And that's been my saving grace, is the craziness that's happened in my life is the ups are the ups, and I'm in the ups to learn something. I'm in the downs to learn something harder, which is just awesome. You have a cool business model with what you're doing. Talk to me a little bit about your company.
Okay, well, it's called the Good Contractors List, and when I started it out, what my intention was that, I wanted to protect homeowners from shady contractors. There's a lot of businesses out there that I wouldn't have sent to my family, and I sold Yellow Pages back in the day, and some of the biggest ads that had all those keywords, integrity, above reproach, and blah, 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 and all these different terms that they were using, and then I would go in and I would be like, wow. Like when I was in there, I could hear what they were saying, and it was not good stuff sometimes, and I'm like, right. How in the world? I would never send these guys to my home or to a friend's home or whatever. And so when it came time, I had a guy that was a plumber that was wanting to be I was selling direct mail at the time. And so he didn't want to pay the money. He didn't have the money to buy an ad in Money Mailer. And so he said, I'd like to share it with an electrician friend that I trust and a roofing guy that I trust, and we could build this ad together. Well, that's what spun the idea off, is like, okay, so you're a good guy and other good guys know more good guys. So maybe I can tap into that network and create, and at that time I was just going to create a group right there in Mansfield so I could sell them all an ad in the Money Mailer, Right. But I was like, what if we created one website where the good guys were on here and we could just advertise you guys here in Mansfield as the good guys? And so that's what started it. It reached a point in my mind where I was like, I can't go out and sell this, because I started thinking I could do this as my own business potentially. And I was like, but I can't do it and be working for somebody else and getting paid while I'm trying to build my own thing, So that's when I walked into the office. As soon as I realized that this was something I wanted to try to do on my own, I walked into that office and quit my job. And so what I've done since then is say, listen, here's the kicker for what the Good Contractors List really, really means. If I'm willing to say I'm referring these guys, then I better have some skin in the game. You can go to Angie's List or Home Advisor or Better Business Bureau and all those guys where you can find contractors on the list. But there's no skin in the game for any of them. Angie's not going to come out and pay for your house to be fixed if that contractor doesn't do what he's supposed to do. So I said, what's going to be different with the Good Contractors List is I'm going to put a $10,000 guarantee on every job my contractors do.
Wow.
A contractor from the Good Contractors List, I promise you that job is going to get done right. And if it doesn't, and if they're not able to, or if they refuse to do something that they should have done, then we step in, we take over the job, we finish it for them, and they have no more money out of pocket. So homeowners are never left holding the bag, and we have to pick the right guys or we crumble. So
that's awesome.
So that's the concept behind the Good Contractors.
No, I love it. So here's the interesting thing is, so for the last 7.5 years before I started my company, I worked with a international sales training company, and I got invited into a local Dallas-Fort Worth company because they were struggling with sales. And the only reason I'm telling this story is because your story made me think of it. While I'm in there, I'm asking this room, and they're an HVAC company. Of course, I won't use their name, but I said, why are you guys struggling with sales so much? And they're like, well, because, there's those companies out there that rate, how good of a company you are, and we have an F standing with them. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Better Business Bureau. I know it's a scam somewhat, right, and everything behind it. I mean, it's a franchise, and you can read up on it all you want to. But these guys, even for the Better Business Bureau, had an F rating on the Better Business Bureau. Yeah. And then they walked me through their sales process. And literally, their guys were being taught, you don't leave that house until you've sold a unit or a system. Yep. And as they're telling me this, I just stood up and walked out. And they're like, wait, where are you going? I said, I got nothing for you guys. I will not have my name associated with you. I'm scared my truck is parked in your parking lot right now. So I love the fact that you are, one, vetting these guys, but you're literally putting yourself on the line for each one of these calls. Right. Because, there's the HGTV show, Homes on Homes and all that, where he's going in and following up all these bad contractors, and cleaning up their messes. That's huge. And
well, the key is to find good guys, and there's really, really good guys out there. Most contractors don't get in the business to try to rip off people. That's not their goal. They evolve into that sometimes, and they take the wrong advice sometimes. But I think most contractors, they have a affinity to do do service work. They want to serve people. They want to go home at night knowing that they helped someone get their air conditioning back on, Right. But there are some people that it's just a business. There's no heart in it, and it's all about money. And
you mean those companies that show up right after the hailstorm and they come from out of state and go door knocking and all those guys?
Yeah, I mean they're all over the place. So what I wanted to do is just create a safe place for good contractors to say, I'm a part of this team. And those guys that you're talking about, you go check us out. They're not on our list, even though they have the most money to buy as much as they want to from us. I have literally told them, you're not part of, you don't represent our business model, and good luck. I mean, they've come to me asking to be on this list, and I won't let them.
That's awesome.
For that purpose. But if you don't mind, do you mind if I kind of tell where I really want this to go from here?
Sure.
The good contractors list is awesome, and I'm going to continue to grow this business and help the people that I can here. But, we were talking, and I'm just one guy with a story. There are thousands, millions of people out there that have stories that can be used for good. And I believe, so biblically, the Bible says that we overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So that would mean Jesus and the word of our testimony. And our testimony is our story. And so I've created a website. I'm working on it right now. I'm building it right now. It's called IamTheGood.com. Right? And so what I'm trying to do is get people from all over the world to go to this place and build a profile, tell their story. And so we're going to categorize these stories so that when someone is hurting or someone is needing help, maybe it's a divorce, maybe they were abused, maybe there's so many different things that other people have already gone through that they would just want to read a story about it. I just want to hear somebody got out of this, right? So I Am the Good's going to be that place where they can set up profiles and tell their story. And then now they become agents of good because their story is now out there. The word of their testimony is out there, and it's a matter of people finding it. So I'm trying to build this place, and you can sign up through it. It's real simple to get a part of this so that, whenever it does launch, I can get you information on it. You can text the word goodness, GOODNESS, to the number 44222. So the word goodness to 44222, and that'll get you on the mailing list to allow us to share that with you whenever we get it launched. But I just want to pull everybody together, and there's two sides of the site. One side is the people who are on this are already doing good things with their life through their struggles. And then there's the side where the people who are in the middle of their story, the people listening right now that are like, you know what, I want to have a good life. I want to be used for good. I want to do good things. And I want to have a vision of good for my future. Well, those people can come and tell their story up to the point where they are right now. I want them to start learning how to do this, because if they can learn to tell the story that they are here, envision how the problems that they're going through right now could be used for good for somebody else, then we start building from there. There's going to be tools there where they can start building a vision board and building a plan for what they want their life to look like, and start believing. At this point, as soon as they start believing and they start seeing those first trickles of success come in, and that just might be, hey, I didn't react in traffic like I normally do. That's a success, right? I mean, every one of these little successes, you start becoming thankful. You become more grateful. Thank you, Lord, that I didn't just blow up like I would normally do right now in this traffic. Or whatever it might be, that you start noticing changes in your life, then you can say, I'm heading somewhere. And so that's where I want. So
I love it. So here's what I love about it is the reason I created this podcast was to hear everybody's story, right?
Yeah.
I truly believe everybody has a story, and your story is your success. And yes. What I encourage a lot of my guests to come on the show and do is get raw with their story. Talk about the crap of their life, because that's what's helped you get to where you are right now. And it's helped you find whatever success you're currently at. I love this idea in this site. This is actually a really, really, really cool idea. So people can come in, and there is freedom in telling your story and getting your message out there. So that's a beautiful thing. But there's more power in telling your story because it will affect somebody else's life, whether they're going through it or they've been through it or whatever else. You either are going to find a bond or you're going to find a purpose in your own life by simply sharing your story. So I love this mission of yours, brother. That is beautiful. And you and I are going to talk later about this more and how I can get involved and help you with it.
Would love that. Yeah. We do this together. All of us.
Yep. I love this. So we're getting stacked up against the hour. So I want to make sure we finish this out in a beautiful, beautiful way. Okay. Here's how I finish every episode. If you were to leave my audience with a phrase, a quote, a mantra, a saying, something they can carry with them on their journey. I believe we're all on a journey in this, especially when they're going through the tough times. What would be that phrase, quote, mantra, saying that you would say when you're going through this, pull this out of your toolkit and just think this thought?
Yeah. We are all here to help other people. When we can realize that we have a purpose, we can, especially to help other people, and we can get out of our own head long enough to just say, I'm thankful where I'm at, and I'm thankful for what I have, and I'm ready to move forward. It'll happen. It's going to happen. And you just got to cling and hold on to that thought every single day. I'm where I'm at because of my purpose. I'm where I'm at because of my purpose. And every day, my purpose to do good. I'm where I'm at every day for my purpose to do good. And just make that your mantra. I'm here today because of the good I'm going to do in the world in the future. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm going. My story's just getting started. Boy, do I have a good story. You can just start getting excited about it because, look, how many people would have a boring story? It's like there's people have gone through some really rough stuff. And if you have a boring story, thank God for that, right?
Absolutely.
Be thankful where you are because it's bringing you to your future purpose.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. John, I got to tell you, brother, I really enjoyed getting to know you, really enjoyed hearing your story. Thanks so much for coming on the show today and sharing your story with us, bud.
Thanks for letting me.
You know what, guys? Really, thank you for listening to this episode. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun putting these together. I wanted to make sure before we get out of here that you knew what we were doing with social content. What we found was because of the podcast, we have a unique way of helping you get your social content out on a very easy way. What we're doing is we're interviewing people. And from that interview, we will capture a lot of information that will then be turned into videos, memes, articles, all things you can use for your social content. I know, for me, one of the biggest struggles I had was, what do I put out there? What do I say on a regular basis? Well, we'll help do all that for you. So if this is at all of interest to you, reach out to us and let us help you grow your social media channel. I can tell you I did this for my business, and my social media is completely taking off. My Instagram, since I started doing this, jumped to over 10,000 followers, and it continues to grow. So if this is at all of interest to you, check the bottom of the show notes for the link that says, Get My Social Content Done right now.